Hey guys, this is a very reactionary video I'm going to do. It's not jokey or funny or anything at all. It's actually quite serious, to be honest, because it's a reactionary video, and that's it. I read a week ago that Markiplier had to stop doing videos, and looking at the visibility he had and the number of videos he was putting out and the popularity he had, that's a big deal. Certainly when it's your full-time job, when you basically have to say to everyone publicly, like, I can't do this anymore, I've got to stop. And obviously there's a certain level of concern. I'm free wording here. As you can see, I'm not wearing my RSI t-shirt. I'm not monetizing this video because this is completely reactionary. I jumped straight on the computer because I had to talk about this, because ultimately what's happened is I'm actually really angry and really frustrated at the same time about what's taking place. Now, you probably already know, for those of you who don't, there's a group of guys called Sindago. I say group because it's kind of friends and family and people that they collaborate with. But ultimately, it's just two guys. One of which, unfortunately, under the name Daniel Kyre, that was his name, not under the name, sorry, has passed away due to attempted suicide, which wasn't really an attempt in the end. It's what happened. And the amount of looking through their channel and looking at everything they did, it obviously you have to kind of leave yourself thinking, well, why? What happened, and how did it lead to that, and so on and so forth. But to me, all I think is this is a real problem, a real problem that overshadows a lot of things, because I think unfortunately depression and the word depressed has been saturated to the state where it doesn't really mean anything and people don't really understand what it entails. What's unfortunate is that from my own understanding, it can mean a lot of different things. I mean, there are different types of depression that you can go through, and of course some of them can be short term, some of them can be long term, some of them can be, say, mental, clinical, and so on and so forth. And you I guess maybe it's hard to nail down, certainly in terms of the general public, say, compared to like just an illness. Is it a flu? Is it a cough? Is it a cold? And so on. And it's annoying because right now I don't know where I stand with it in terms of where I am, but I know that I talked about it before, and I did an episode on my last channel talking about depression and how it feels. And actually, now I look back and I'm thinking I actually completely, I didn't completely miss the mark, but I didn't take it as seriously as I should have done, because it's not something that you can tiptoe around. It's not something you can lighten up, I don't think. I know there was a comic that went around about the black dog that follows you around and stuff, and how it can take away a lot of your control of your day because it weighs down on you so much. Like the responsibilities of having this big black dog follow you around and so on and so forth can get in the way of everything. And it was a nice analogy, I'm not going to lie, but I still don't feel that helps, because it doesn't bring the whole thing into a solid reality, to be honest. Now, I'll be honest again, like, I don't actually watch a lot of Markiplier's videos, and I certainly don't watch a lot of Sindago videos, and you know, you can judge that how you will. The reason I made this video is purely because the situation where someone gets to where they feel that that's an option in life to end it is not something to be ignored at all by any stretch. And I can understand that when someone reaches a point where they either explain or feel or get that idea that ending your life is an option in any way, shape or form, then that's a problem. That's not good. And for those of you who might not get it, if you can imagine that you have an option, say, to get a job or go traveling, for example, or you have an option to, let's say, I don't know, an option in life, like do I rent or do I buy a house? Do I save up to buy a house, or do I do this or do that? If you can imagine, when you think about those options, and among those options, one of them is simply to kill yourself. That's not good. That's not healthy, and that's not a good thing to have in your head. The only reason I say that is because I'll be honest, I'm familiar with that option, because it's easier, because what you get is a state where you don't feel like, no matter what you've achieved in your life, and I don't know, obviously I don't know Daniel, I don't know who he is or what kind of person he was and so on. All I can glean from is, no matter what you've achieved and what you've done, it can mean nothing because of the way that you value yourself and how you look at yourself, and obviously how you become your worst enemy. And obviously then looking forward, you can't carry that achievement or whatever you've done along with you, because you've basically valued it as null and nothing. And when you bring yourself to the present looking forward, you're then kind of going, I've got nothing to go forward with. I have no future, basically, no matter what. I don't really value my own skills. I don't see what I have as anything special. I don't see what I am as anything special. I don't necessarily see what other people see. And so moving forward, it's kind of like, because I don't see that, I don't believe it, and therefore, why the hell should I try or go continue trying? You know, then suddenly it pops up. It's just, I don't know when it pops up. I don't know what kind of triggers it to pop up, but it becomes this thing where you're just like, all of these things I could do. You know, I could, for example, Sindago is a comedy sketch channel, comedy sketch show. So they're probably, again, this is speculation, and I know this might seem insulting. Obviously, I don't want it to come across that way at all. But it's kind of like, what else can we do to make this channel better? What else have we got that we can build on? What else can we add value to make this better, so that we can continue to enjoy ourselves? And when you've got this mindset that you're not worth anything, so much so that you've already put this option in place of everything, that you could just go, well, I could just end it. And it's so casual. It's so casual that it actually, that casual nature, again, completely overshadows that ultimatum, that complete and utter ultimatum, that it doesn't seem like such a big deal. And it doesn't. And what's unfortunate in some cases is that it can actually seem like a relief, to be honest, because you're so lost in terms of what you think you could do next, and what you think your values are, and what you think you could do better, and how you could progress and develop yourself. And I guess the reason I talk about all this is the fact that it's something that just isn't talked about. It's something that's not addressed properly. I've tried to, and it's difficult, because it's very, very, very difficult. I guess because it's different for each person, perhaps, to nail down what the problem really is. And there could be things like people just saying they're depressed, and again, it lessens the value of that whole feeling and that whole problem. People could self-diagnose quite easily and say, I'm suffering depression, when they've never gone to the doctor and actually got it probably checked out. Because what could feel like depression could feel like just being really, 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 really tired all the time, which could absolutely link to that. Not getting enough sleep, perhaps drinking too much, perhaps anything. I guess anything can kick it in that would make you feel worthless. I mean, you can get depression from a really bad breakup, for example, or I guess PTSD, things like that could kick in, that could just make you feel worthless, make you feel like there is no point in moving on, and there's no point in considering any kind of progress or upper slant on your life and so on. It just frustrates me, because there's all you need in some ways is a pair of understanding ears, which I guess I say it sounds simple enough, but I don't think it is, to be perfectly honest. I really don't think it is, because you need to be able to put your perspective forward in such a way that people get it, people understand, people see that, and then you have to trust them to actually dig into that space of their mind, because some people just don't. Some people just don't understand why anyone kills somebody. I mean, you hear people say that suicide is selfish, which is insulting to that condition massively insulting to that condition, because what it does is it then adds another layer of self-degradation on top of that feeling of they want to be dead, because they feel that perhaps the world would be better. Everything would be better if they weren't around, pretty much, because they wouldn't have to suffer and other people wouldn't have to suffer around them because they'd be gone. And that's selfish, apparently. And that doesn't help. That doesn't help the situation at all, It's a problem because, like, I've spoken to the Good Samaritans. I've rung them and spoken to them, and all they've done is listen and kind of let me talk it out. And it's like an offload, and it's nice. It's like a relief, but it's not exactly what you want, because what you want is to make things better. Ultimately, you just want to feel something, be it like something other than utter despair. Effectively, you don't want to wake up every day and just wonder if you're going to make it through that day, or if you're just kind of wading through waist-deep mud, while of course it feels like the rest of the world is floating about 2 feet above it, and pushing forward with that. It's really difficult. I think that, I guess that's another problem. It's really difficult to talk about. And I guess perhaps the dog analogy helped because it made it simple. But unfortunately, I still feel like it doesn't fully encapsulate it, because it's a serious thing. I mean, the guy clearly had talent. The guy was clearly doing something he wanted to do. And he was living a dream, hopefully his own dream, certainly the dreams of people. And he was doing well enough to be in the position he was in, but something wasn't right, and that should speak volumes as well. That should speak volumes in the sense that it's not about what you have. Anyone could have depression, of course, and I feel like I'm just like preaching to the choir here. I feel like that. It's silly to say, how can you be depressed? You've got this and that going for you, which again doesn't help, because you're like, well, yeah, I'm aware of that, but that doesn't necessarily make me feel better. I mean, maybe I don't even know what's making me feel bad, but all I know is I just don't feel good. I don't feel good on a very regular basis. Like, it can get to the stage where perhaps Daniel felt like even the fact that he was doing well meant nothing, because he was so caught up. He was trapped in a space of negativity within his head, and he wanted to get out. He just wanted to escape. And it's I'm not gonna lie, it's a familiar feeling. No matter how good things can seem, or how good people tell you your life is, or how good people tell you things seem to be, unfortunately, up inside the space here, things are not, and that's the dangerous part. That's the dangerous part. It's got, and I guess it's got to come out. The other side of things, I suppose, is that people might say that they're going to do something like kill themselves, and maybe other people don't know how to react. I'll say this now. A long time ago, a friend of mine started working for a company within finance and accountancy, and he did come to me, and we were having a drink, and he actually said to me that he spends a lot of his time thinking about killing himself. And at the time, I made the brutal mistake, and I regret saying this to him, that, it was just a phase and he should move on from it and so on. This is a very long time ago. And it was only a couple of days of thought about it that I was like, no, that's not at all a phase. That's not, even if it was a phase, that's not a healthy phase to go through. That's not somewhere someone should be. They need to talk to someone. They need to go and seek help, And perhaps even that has a stigma about it. And I did message him and say, you know what? Fuck what I said. Forget what I said. Go and see someone, because that's what you should do. And I believe he brushed it off eventually. And I don't even know, unfortunately, I don't even know what state they're in now, really. But it's kind of one of those things that shouldn't be ignored. No matter how dramatic it might seem, I don't think it's something that should be ignored, ever. I don't know if Daniel at any point had said to anyone like, look, I think I'm going to do this, or this is how I feel, and so on. But I don't know. It's a scary thing. I guess also what could happen. I know it's a lot of speculation and assumption, but then what if he was too scared to tell someone? Because the stigma behind talking about it, or the stigma behind getting help, like you shouldn't need to get help, because again, I'm familiar with that. In some areas, you're not supposed to get help. You're supposed to do everything yourself. You should be self-efficient. You shouldn't need help. Why should you need help? You're a human being. You're an adult, right? An adult should be able to take care of themselves. If you can't take care of yourself, you're not a responsible adult. Like, screw that. That annoys me again, because, and I get, this is the whole thing. This is why I'm angry. This is why I'm frustrated, because there doesn't seem to be any kind of nailed down on this. And a guy can go through his life. He must have gone through hell in his own head. The guy must have gone through absolute hell in his own head. And I don't know what. We may never know what. I don't know. All I can speak from is my personal experience, is that there can be a stigma from getting help. There can be a stigma from talking about it. There can be a stigma depending on your character. For example, I'll be quite candid. I grew up with drama, so obviously I was very dramatic. I was very animated, and everything was quite dramatic with me, which I was familiar with and recognized when it actually came to the point where I actually had genuine dramatic emotions and feelings, and it became difficult because obviously what would happen is they get written off as just a drama. Just a regular ass Daniel drama. And so then what happened was I stopped talking about it. I didn't talk about it. I didn't want to talk about it. Not with the people who I was most familiar with, who'd known me for a long time, because for them I was just it was just another drama. It wasn't a genuine serious thing. It's like the boy who cried wolf kind of thing. And I had to kind of take that one on the chin. With Daniel, I don't know. You can either say he talked about it, and unfortunately, not for anyone's fault. I don't want to say anyone's to blame for anything, but because of the fact that, we don't understand it fully, it's not taken seriously. Because of the fact that getting help might be a stigma. The idea of being an adult means being self-efficient could be a stigma, and the idea that. And actually, this is something else I'm familiar with. I mean, when you feel this pressure of having to be an adult and being responsible and getting a handle on things and knowing how everything works and growing up with this emotion. I know it sounds stupid, and I thankfully people have said like you can't know everything and reassured me in that. But you can't help getting this idea, no matter how old you are, being 18, 21, 25, probably up until the age. Well, God knows. I mean, the world keeps changing, so you could grow up forever just feeling like you haven't really got a grasp on things. And that's something to be aware of. But you can't help feeling this pressure on your shoulders of like, I need to get this sorted out. I've got to get my life together. I've got to be okay. I've got to be good, because that's what a grown-up does. That's what you do when you're 25. That's what you do when you're 30. That's when you do when you're 40. I've got to make sure I'm married and have kids and And when you're sat in a ball of thinking, well, I haven't got those things. I haven't got a house. I haven't got kids. I haven't got a car. I haven't got, a savings. I haven't got these things. I'm failing. As a human being, as a basic human being, I'm failing. Why? Of course, you forget the fact that you might have a channel that's really successful. You forget the fact you've got a fan base. You forget the fact that you've done all this stuff because through your life, you've been put through the pressure of having to have A, B, C, D, the checkbox of life. And because you haven't had those, you failed. And so it doesn't matter what else you've achieved. It really doesn't matter. So you have this pressure upon you. And that pressure not only tells you you're failing, but also tells you that you should be able to handle this yourself because you're an adult. And it then means that you shouldn't get help. And the idea of getting help makes you feel weaker. Like, great, so now I'm going to have to get a crutch or something to lean on because I'm so pathetic as an adult or as a person that I can't even survive by myself. I can't even deal with my own problems by myself. Like, what is that? That's not responsibility. That's not being an adult, as far as I'm aware. So not only not only am I failing as an adult, but I need help as an adult. And that whole stigma is crippling, effectively. Perhaps that's it. And I guess, but I shouldn't really talk so much about Daniel because I don't know what the case was. I mean, it's only just been announced, and I don't know what. It's not fair for me to kind of judge or not judge. Sorry, to guess or assume anything. But my frustration just comes out in the fact that this guy had done what he's done and achieved so much, and I picture myself being at the stage that he's at doing what I do and being so proud of myself and being so happy because that's what I wanted and that's what I want. And getting there. And I don't actually know if those feelings of inadequacy will go away. I don't know. I really don't. But that's the sad thing, is the fact that even when you might achieve a goal or achieve your goals or feel like you've done something great, you don't actually really get the full front feeling of doing something great because you're so weighed down by the idea that you're just never going to be great. You're never going to match up to your own unrealistic expectations of yourself. Because of, God knows, because of the way that you perceive the world, the way that people might talk about what makes a good person and a bad person, the way that your immediate social group, perhaps your immediate society sees the way the world should be, the way that the world might feel like it wants a human being to be. And if you don't fit into that category, you don't fit in. And with that comes this idea of loneliness, like lack of worth, and thinking, do you know what? Why am I trying? Why am I trying to fit in? Why am I trying to be something that I can't be or may never be? Why? There's no point. There's no point in me trying. I mean, I could continue living on and doing what other people do, which is just be a regular person and so on. But that's not my aspirations, and that's not what I want for myself. So really, I could deal with that, but I can pretty much see it ending the same way, whether I do it now or whether I wait 10 years trying that and doing it anyway. So it's honestly, it's well, how can I put this? I guess it eats away at you emotionally. You run out of energy to feel. You run out of energy to think. You run out of energy to motivate yourself to do a lot of things. And again, feeling good about what you do obviously then can affect your performance in what you're doing. And of course, then your performance dips and you realize that you're not doing as great a job. And that just feeds into that whole negative sensation of not feeling good, of not feeling great, of not feeling like you're worth it, of not feeling like, you have any purpose here. Like you're just a waste of space. You're just a waste of flesh, and you don't need to be here anymore. And it's just not healthy. It just isn't. It's not. And to be able to speak about it so openly, I think is almost impossible because it's just seen as not a big deal. I don't know how often it happens, the idea of just cheer up or get some sleep or, maybe have a drink or something stupid like that. It just doesn't work like that. It becomes something ingrained. It becomes ingrained in your head, I guess. The negativity and the self-degradation comes ingrained in your head as much as breathing does. It's just a natural reflex of what happens. So it's not like something good happens and you'll feel better, which you might do for a moment. But the natural state is, I'm not worth it. That is the natural state, no matter what happens. So you might have a moment of elation. You might have a moment of good feeling. That lingers but fades because your natural state is, I don't feel like I'm worth it. And it just stays. It remains. And it just drives me fucking insane because there should not be people who do good things, who entertain as well, people who make other people happy, people who are creative, people who perhaps deliberately didn't choose the beaten path and tried something new and became something new, and it was idolized for doing that, and had a fan base and had a following and had a great group of friends who were also doing the same thing, perhaps even following in their footsteps or whatever, and yet they still don't feel that they're worth keeping alive. They just still don't feel that they're worth keeping themselves alive. Like that's clearly not right. That's clearly not right. It's not. It's nothing to do with money. It's nothing to do with anything you have. It's simply there's something up here that you can't escape because it's here. It's part of your thought processes. It's part of everything you do every day. It's as much a part of putting your clothes on or having a shower or feeling hungry or feeling like you need the toilet, feeling like you want to go outside, feeling like you want to spend some time with your friends. It's exactly the same as that feeling, and you can't ignore that. You don't ignore those feelings because you respond to them immediately. It's an instinctive thing that you respond to. So when you imagine one of those feelings is, I'm not worth being alive, your instinctive response, unfortunately, is to just feel completely, not literally, completely just dead, really, on the inside. You suddenly just think, what's the point? What is the point? Like, why should I even try and go to work? Why should I try and make videos? Why should I try and entertain people? Why? Unfortunately, it's my job now, so I have to. So I've got to do that, but I don't want to because I don't feel like I'm worth it. I don't feel like I'm good enough, so I won't do it. And it's awful. It's awful. These are people who make people smile. There are people who make other people feel better. It might be people who pull other people out of this rut, and yet they themselves can't pull themselves out of the rut. And I wish I could address it further, to be honest. But I think I've rambled on for long enough because I just had to let it out because it really does upset me so much. Even and again, like I don't know Sindaga. I've actually never watched a video of theirs. And I've watched a few of Markiplier's videos as well, but I'm not heavily involved in that area of things. But just hearing about it and seeing what they did and hearing that that's happened, like, what is that? How does that happen? Really, really, where a person's condition, a person's mental state is ignored by themselves potentially or by people close to them potentially. Again, this is all speculation. I'm not trying to say that he was ignored or he said something because I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I really, really, really don't know. But the idea that basically the condition itself was ignored by whoever, like that's not acceptable. It's not. And people need to be brave enough to be able to talk about it as much as people need to be understanding enough and open enough to do what they can to help them. Because I had a chat with someone on Facebook about depression and stuff, and it was kind of I think we agreed on the same thing. Although at first it started off as kind of 2 points that were slowly molding together, and realized that we were basically saying the same thing. And I don't think honestly that there should be any taboo about talking about how you feel. I don't think there should be any taboo about listening to someone, because sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes that is genuinely all it takes. I felt a lot better when I've been able to just tell someone how I feel and what's going on in my head. Because it's kind of like, if it stays in here, it's going to get worse. If I can just let it out in any kind of way, then I'm going to feel better. And that is true to some extent. Obviously, you can reach a stage where you do need a professional. And that, again, that's not to say you're crazy. That's not to say that there's anything wrong with you. But you just need, much like you take a tablet to heal your flu instead of drinking water all the time. Or, you take a tablet to heal your headache instead of drinking water all the time. Stuff like that. much like you probably would do like a staple up your stomach instead of going for a run, you should go and speak to someone who knows this stuff in and out, instead of just either letting it manifest in your head, or just talking to someone who doesn't fully understand it. Because I know, again, when you talk to someone, when you talk to someone about something and they don't understand it, it doesn't really help, really. It helps in the sense you've let it out, but if there's clearly not a level of understanding they have for you, or if there's clearly no effort to understand, which I think is more important, actually, then it just doesn't feel like you've really let it out. It doesn't feel like you've really vented at all. It just feels like you basically might as well have spoken to the wall, and it's just bounced back right at you, ultimately. So yeah, that was really it. I guess to summarize, I do think that this is a discussion that I would like to have people do. I'd like for people to have openly and often when they feel down for whatever reason. I mean, so what if you're a teenager going through life and you've just realized that, you've discovered emotions and hormones, you're going through puberty. Like, of course you're going to feel weird. You're going to feel different. You're going to feel very, very strange, because that's like your adulthood kicking in, where you start to become more aware of all these things. But it doesn't mean it should be ignored and passed aside as like some teenager going through some stuff, because unfortunately teenagers then end up doing some really messed up stuff to themselves, like myself, and it sticks with you for life. And like some people I know as well, it sticks with you for life, and you can't forget it, that you went through that at some point. And in adults as well, like, screw being an adult, screw being a grown-up. Like, if you need some help, get it. And if there's something that you are aware of that you shouldn't be going through, get help. See someone, do something, talk to someone. And if someone has come to you with something, talk to them. Listen to them, and do your best to understand where they're coming from. Because it's got to be an open discussion. It really, I think a lot of us would be surprised, honestly surprised. Even if we know how big depression is, I think a lot of us would be honestly really, really, really surprised about how many people either have gone through or are going through depression at some point. I think a lot of us would be surprised, because I reckon it's a hell of a lot of people. A hell of a lot. And why? I don't know. Many, many, many reasons. Many reasons. But ultimately, it's a problem. It's a problem that needs to be addressed. And it needs to be addressed quickly, because it's a sad state of affairs when a person can grow up. And it scares me. A person can grow up being an entertainer. I don't know if it was Daniel's dream or not. Perhaps it was. But either way, he was doing something great. He was doing something really cool. And what happened? Like, I just don't. It's scary. You can go through what can seem like the best thing in life. I guess this is the mistake I'm making, is that to me it seems like a great thing. But again, because I don't know what he was going through, I don't know if that was his dream, then I have to assume. But then, again, I'll say it one last time, that's why it's important for people to talk about this stuff when they're going through it. To explain fully how they feel about things. Because everyone otherwise will just assume that you're happy. And I have a feeling, again, a lot of the happiest people probably have something going on, because unfortunately their happiness becomes their defense mechanism against whatever else is happening around them. That's an assumption. That's not something to take home with you or anything like that. That's purely assumption. So nothing to go from there. But yeah, ultimately, if you do feel bad, or if you do feel like you're struggling, no matter how small it might feel to you, it probably is larger than you think. And certainly if it sticks around. If it sticks around, it's just going to make things worse. And every day will get harder. Every day. So like nip it in the bud straight away and go to like your closest person. If you've got a best friend, if your mum's your best friend, if your dad's best friend, your sister, brother, friend, whatever, go to someone. If you're at school, talk to your counselor, talk to someone who can help you, talk to someone who could take you to someone who can help you effectively. But just ultimately find some medicine. I do that because it's not going to be like a tablet or something. Your medicine will technically be talking to someone. And on the other side of that, if someone has come to you with a problem, for the love of God, hear them out. Like, just listen to them. Because you don't know, unfortunately, you don't know if that one time you decide you don't want to listen to them or you haven't got time for them. You don't know, as his example, if that's going to be if you're their last straw, if you're their final go-to person. And that's a lot of pressure to put on someone, but I mean, would you rather... What options do you have? Someone comes to you telling you how they feel and you know, you tell them you don't have time for them. I mean, well, I'm sorry, you should always have time for someone who's got to talk about that kind of stuff. Always. Without a doubt. So that's me, and I don't know if I've been clear about things or not. I don't, because I was very reactionary, and I wanted to get this video out because I wanted to get my part out and hopefully say, which I've had said, you know, it's got to be public. It's not going to be something that's talked about behind closed doors and shit like that. Like, it's got to be something that affects more people than we know, and therefore needs to be addressed in a big way. Because for all we know, there could be a huge reduction in all sorts of other things that have gone on. All sorts of other things. I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out the guy in where was it? Not Wisconsin. The ex-news reporter who shot the other news reporter live on television, like a point-blank range. Wouldn't be surprised that dude was suffering from depression. Doesn't excuse it. But shit, if that guy had spoke to someone or tried to get help from someone or done something about that might have been avoided. In all the cases where someone's gone off the rails and done something ridiculous, there's probably a chance those guys were suffering from something that was making them feel like, you know, they have no worth. There's no repercussions. They'd have nothing to lose, effectively. But unfortunately, they also have life. Apparently that's something to lose to them. And that sounds quite close to depression to me. So we start attacking this, we start dealing with depression on a big scale, and we start working on that. God only knows what other things we could prevent. It would be really good to see. But that's me signing out. No outro, no nothing. That is it. That is what I wanted to say. Thank you for watching if you have, and please do have a good day. Please, by all means. What I'll try and do is put some links in the description. Of course, if you have any feelings about anything, and if you're worried about anything, then I'll put the necessary links in the description so that you can, and so on. So yeah, guys, take care. Please do. Bye bye.